One of my many useless talents. I can do the Elvis lip. Thank you very much. Hello everyone and welcome back to IMO Reviews. Today we are discussing Elvis. Directed by Baz Luhrmann and starring Austin Butler, Tom Hanks and Olivia de-Jonge. Elvis is a musical biographical picture telling the story of Elvis Presley from rise to fall. But before we go any further, could you be a dear, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. It costs you absolutely nothing. It never will cost you anything. If anything, it's good for you. It's a bit of your daily exercise, waggling your finger around. So hit that like button, hit the subscribe button and hit the comment section as well. And of course, we thank you if you do. Before we get into the nitty gritty of this movie, I think it's important to establish where I stand with Elvis. He's fine. I don't really care, to be honest, is the way I'd say it. I don't dislike him, but I don't really love him either. Very take it or leave it for me. Appreciate what the guy did for the scene of music, but he also hasn't been relevant for about 50 years now. So was I excited to go and see this? Not really, no. This was one of those movies on my list where reviewing movies becomes a job, not a hobby. But I did what all good professionals do. I put any bias to one side and I went in and I just let the movie have a chance, try and win me over. And thankfully I can say I have many, many pros for this movie. Starting with the editing style, especially in the transitions, this movie was very creative and imaginative from going from shot to shot. It very rarely did a basic cut from frame to frame or person to person. It would always do fades or swipes or swirls. It was big, it was imaginative, and it fit the tone for what Elvis is. It kept the film moving quite nicely because there's a lot going on here. A lot. They give you every little detail and then some. So those quick transitions, I think, did a really fantastic job of trying to keep this as short and sweet as they possibly could have, because without them, this movie probably would have been about 4 hours long. It's a very small detail, but I think it was a very wise decision from the filmmakers to do so. I also have to mention the performances in this movie. I can't say I've seen this Austin Butler guy before. This is, at least to my knowledge, if he was in a movie I've seen, I didn't notice him. Here, you can't help but notice him. He was electric in this movie. It's a little bit scary just how uncanny he is to the real life Elvis. And not just when he's young, like when he's older too. Several eras are shown here, and I thought he was superb in every single one of them. I'm certainly keeping an eye on this kid. I think he's got a very bright future. And Tom Hanks is just having the time of his life in this role as Colonel Tom Parker. It's not your traditional Tom Hanks role. When you read the character brief for this guy, your first thought wouldn't be Tom Hanks, but I'm really glad that it was, because it was a lot of fun to see Tom Hanks do something a little bit different and have a lot of fun with it. I also found this movie to be really informative. Like I say, not the biggest Elvis fan over here, but I do feel like I walked away having learned something. I sort of knew the plot beats, but not to the finer detail that this movie will explain it to you in. And I really enjoyed that. And surely with myself not being an Elvis fan, the fact that I actually really enjoyed this movie, surely that's got to count for something. It has a really good energy to it. I would be lying if I said I wasn't tapping my feet along to the music in this. It did offer me that escapism and fun that a good movie should offer you. But I do think it has some problems. A big one for me, won't bother everyone, but for me, I'm just a bit nitty-gritty when it comes to narration. I just don't really like its use. I don't think it's necessary. For me, I've always had the problem with narration breaking my immersion. I'm watching the film, I'm into it, I'm getting the themes, I'm getting the vibe, I'm getting the feel of the place, and then just a random voice just starts talking out of absolutely nowhere, it's completely invisible, and now my immersion's broken. That might not be a problem for everyone, but it has always been a bit of a problem for me. I only really get around narration if it's done in a very specific, clever way. A good recent example would be the new Batman movie. The narration in that film is done as diary entries. The Batman is night by night fighting crime and putting it into his journal, and we sort of read it aloud together. That didn't break the immersion for me. Sadly, Elvis does not have any great ideas like that, and it is your very traditional run-of-the-mill narration. You'll be watching 30 odd minutes of a movie and there won't be any narration, and then just every now and then there will be narration. And it did pull me out. It's also too long. I mentioned the transitions doing a very good job of speeding this up, but it still could have been faster. and it could have been 10 to 15 minutes shorter. And I do feel a bit harsh saying that, because at the same time, I don't necessarily know what would be cut. Quite a lot of it does feel important and quite well written, in the sense that if they do put it in here, it does at least sort of have a point and a purpose to be there. It's not just there for the sake of it. It really does give some flesh, life and colour to Elvis's story. So I do feel harsh saying that. As much as I feel it should be shorter, I don't necessarily know what should go. And my final complaint is that it's a little bit run of the mill. In regards to a musical biopic, it really isn't reinventing the wheel. It is doing a very simple paint by numbers, start, middle and end to a musician's career. And as some of you know by now, I'm a very heavy rap fan. So I do know the story of NWA, the movie Straight Outta Compton that came out, 4 years ago now, I'm gonna guess. And yes, this happened way before NWA in reality, but the story really isn't that far removed from what happened to NWA. That's just coincidence that it was very similar, but it doesn't help the fact that because I've already seen Straight Outta Compton, it kind of made me feel like I'd already kind of seen this, and it was just doing the same thing but differently. So I'm going to give Elvis a 9 out of 10. This was surprisingly enjoyable, considering I really didn't expect much from it at all, and nor was I that excited to go and see it. It's big, it's fun, it's energetic. I think it does Elvis a great service. It's very clearly made with love. It will get you tapping your feet and singing the songs, but it is long-winded and it really isn't doing anything new or reinventing the wheel. Realistically, I accept that the movie is probably an 8 out of 10, but I am going to give it a 9 as a little cherry on the cake additional point. Because of its after effect, I watched the movie last night and I've been listening to Elvis tracks all damn day. Not every movie and not every musical biopic can do that to me. Thank you for watching this review. Please be sure to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and please do hit the comment section. What did you think of Elvis? What's your favourite Elvis song? Let me know in the comments section below. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you on the next review.